Good morning. It's Monday. We read from Matthew 22, verses 23 through 33. The same day, Sadducees came to him, Sadducees who say that there is no resurrection, and they asked him a question, saying, "Teacher, Moses said if a man dies having no children, his brother must marry the widow and raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers among us. The first married and died, having no offspring left for his wife to his brother. So the second and third, down to the 7th. After them all, the woman died. In the resurrection, therefore, of the 7, whose wife shall she be? For they all had her." Jesus answered them, "You're wrong, because you know neither the Scripture nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. And as for the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was said to you by God? I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." He's not God of the dead, but God of the living. When the crowd heard it, they were astonished at his teaching. So this is the same day that the scribes have asked about the taxes, right? And now it's the Sadducees that want to trap him. Now, the Sadducees, I kind of think of them sometimes as the old money party in Jerusalem. They were very centered on the temple and the temple worship. Everything had to be done just so and according to the law and the tradition. They didn't believe that there was any resurrection. They thought this life is the life you get. When it's over, you're dead, it's gone. And that's that. And you should seek to obey God's law and do well in this life because that's what we're called to do. Theirs was not a version of the faith that survived when the temple was destroyed, but that's who they were. And they said, Moses says if a man dies and there's no children, then his brother needs to take the widow and have children, and so that he can have a legacy. Now, there were 7 brothers, and they each in turn married this same woman, and each one died with no children. So whose wife will she be if there's a resurrection? Jesus, you believe there's a resurrection. And Jesus says, you've got it all wrong. First of all, in the resurrection, there's no marriage. And then he says, don't you know what God says? I'm the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And he's not God of the dead, but God of the living. Therefore, these people must be alive somewhere. So there's a resurrection. They're alive in the presence of God. And everybody's astonished at this because he's sort of settled the debate between the Sadducees and the Pharisees and just sort of shut them up. Jesus is really good at that, shutting people up. He's really good at cutting to the real question. And the real question is not if there's a resurrection or not, but how they read the law and how they're going to interpret the law. Now, when we look at that passage, we see all kinds of, things about it that strike us as wrong. Like, wait a minute, doesn't the woman get a say in this? They all had her. It doesn't sound very equal. It doesn't sound very nice either. And she becomes just a commodity in this transaction, and that's wrong. So, but Jesus says you're reading the law all wrong. You're reading the Scripture with a kind of a literalism that we shouldn't be reading it that way. We shouldn't be using. Scripture is meant to be taken and interpreted, not simply read word for word. And I'll give you a great example where it's the place in the Psalms where it says something about, bashing the children's heads against a rock. Doesn't mean we should all go out and kill our children. It's a poem that talks about war and how good it is to kill the enemy's children. Okay, well, even metaphorically, that's kind of harsh, but I think we can understand that. So we don't want to read the Scripture too literally or with the wrong kind of literalism. And that's, I think, what the Sadducees and Pharisees did to their own, it caused them their own problems. And so we'll leave it there. Have a great Monday. It's great weather. Can't believe it's already December and it's still spring-like, but go out there and have a good time. We'll see you tomorrow.